And now for our last speaker in our panel session, he will be talking about the newly implemented BA in Ojibwe degree program at the University of Minnesota, which strives to produce students who are proficient in the Ojibwe language. Here is Dr. Brendan Fairbanks from the University of Minnesota.
Guda, Japan much time. Okay, I can we yaik. Daga buzzigwig, 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 buzzigwig. Wow, gede bungi way benu ganenig, bungi. Napachkea, napachkea, napachkea. G big bungi, G big. She big. Hey, how good that way bequenig? Way bequenig. Napachkea. Guashquinig. Nijing guashquinig. Naning guashquinig. Wow. Namata big. All right. Do you guys understand Ojibwe, huh? You guys are pretty good. Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to come and speak to you with the little I know. My name is Brendan Fairbanks. I'm associate professor at the University of Minnesota. This is my home right now. And I'm Ojibwe. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Ojibwe tribe, sometimes called the Chippewas, but really it's Ojibwe. And in the Southwest, when we say Southwest, that's in like Minnesota. That's where I live right now. We call it Ojibwe, Chippewa. In the East, like in Michigan and more towards the East and Quebec and towards that area in the northern United States, they call themselves Odawa. Or Anishinaabe, they call themselves Odawa. You guys have heard of Ottawa? That comes from Odawa, all right? That's us. In the Northwest, like into Saskatchewan and northern Ontario, they don't call themselves Ojibwe, they call themselves Soto. We're the same people, we're all the same people, but they call themselves Soto, Ojibwe. And this is Minnesota. And these are the Minnesota reservations where the Ojibways, a lot of them reside. I'm not sure what happened. Okay. And of course the Twin Cities are down here where the university is, but these are the Ojibwe reservations in Minnesota. There are many other communities in Wisconsin and into Canada. There are many Ojibwe, Anishinaabe people. The Ojibwe language is a polysynthetic or a agglutinative language. So this is a typical word in Ojibwe right here. Endagi o wabama nanig. It's a really long word. That which means we should have went and seen them. So here are the morphemes. This is how it's broken up. In, da, gi, o, wabam, a, nan, ig. And that's all. It's a sentence in English, but a word in Ojibwe. This is how you say blueberry pie in Ojibwe. Mini bashkimi nasigan to beat two yi beka. Mini bashkimi nasigan ni badaging gwe sichigan ni animushiwi bitushki gun bakwejigan. Yeah. That actually means blueberry pie with dog underwear in it. I don't know why we put dog underwear in there, but All right, I'm just kidding. I really didn't have to do that, right? But it's a long word. And this is what the languages, that word is made up of. Mean, blueberry, bashkiminasigan is the jam or the preserves. But the gingway sichigan is something that's facing together. Animoshi's dog, bitushkigan is underwear, and bread is bakwayshigan. Okay, we don't really put dog underwear in there. In Minnesota, of course, we throw up these numbers of how many speakers there are. I did not go door to door and knock and find this out. So this is an estimation. We don't really know. But at Red Lake, and these are reservations. And if you're not familiar, reservations are the plots of land that the government was so kind to give us. So Red Lake, about 400 speakers. They have a very strong speaker community. Well, 400 speakers. That's strong to us. At Leech Lake Ojibwe is where I'm from. That's my dad's Ojibwe. My dad's from Leech Lake, and my mom's another tribe. About 90 speakers at Mille Lacs, 150. That's actually 10 years ago. The elders actually estimated about 80 speakers. About 80 speakers left about 10 years ago. It's probably way less now. So 150 is probably a little bit high. At White Earth, 15 speakers. At Fond du Lac Reservation, there's 0 speakers. My friends at Fond du Lac did not like to hear that. I think there's 1 or 2 left. That's how it always is, right? We think there are no speakers left, and then sure enough, somebody walks out of the woods. Hey, I speak the language. Net Lake, about 20 speakers. Grand Portage, 3 speakers. St. Croix, about 10 speakers. So in Minnesota alone, we're looking around 500 or 600 speakers of Ojibwe. Of course, if you go into, this is just Minnesota. I'm not talking about Wisconsin or Ontario or Saskatchewan into Canada. There are many Anishinaabe or Ojibwe communities. Some communities you have to fly into that are very remote, and they have a very strong speaking community. So what I wanted to talk about today is what we're doing at the University of Minnesota to revive the Ojibwe language. Typically, the university is not the usual place where language revitalization movements occur. Normally, universities try to provide language classes for students to give students an exposure to other languages to expand their minds, right? So it's just a taste of the language, really. I actually took Chinese one semester, and I don't remember it, but it gave me an appreciation for the language. Language revitalization movements tend to be grassroots efforts. And in other words, it's usually a group of people. They're not a part of a certain organization or anything. They just decide our language is dying, let's save it, and let's figure out how to do that. And a lot of our communities in the United States, Native communities, that's what they're doing. There's no money behind it. And so don't think that you have to have a bunch of money to save your language, right? There are, the way I learned the language, right? I didn't grow up speaking the language. I learned it by hanging out with the elders. And I would just speak with the elders, pick their brains. That was free. And they gave of their time for free. I didn't have to pay them. And I did that for close to 7 to 8 years, about 7 years. I just hung out with the elders and say things like, hey, how do you say this? How do you say that? What about this? Write it down, record it, right? That was for free. Why do you need, but that's one way. There's not only one way. But at the university, I kind of made it a language revitalization movement, right? I don't know if the university knows this or not, but I just single-handedly said, you know what? We're going to use the University of Minnesota to save the language if we can. The university was built on land belonging to the Dakota Nation. The Dakota Nation, I don't know if you've ever heard of them. That's one of the tribes in Minnesota. And that was, it was a land grant given from the state of Minnesota, but that land was taken by the federal government in the state of Minnesota. They took it from the Dakotas, and they made their reservation even smaller. Very big deal. So it makes sense, and it's appropriate that we at the University of Minnesota try to provide the language, right, to the indigenous population here. I'm indigenous myself. I'm Ojibwe. So I'm using them, right, for once. The Department of American Indian Studies at the University of Minnesota in Twin Cities currently teaches both Ojibwe and Dakota. There are 3 years of Dakota instruction. They're working on a 4th year. For the Ojibwe program, we have 4 years of instruction. And that's kind of brand new as of maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We added the 4th year of instruction. The BA, the bachelor's degree in Ojibwe degree, the bachelor's degree in Ojibwe language program is brand new. It's only 2 years old. I just said, you know what, we needed, the students wanted, they wanted a degree program. Because a lot of students were saying they were coming to the University of Minnesota to learn Ojibwe, but their degree that they were seeking was American Indian Studies degree. And so I thought, well, the students want it, I want it, let's write a bachelor's degree in Ojibwe language, so the focus is Ojibwe fluency. So this allows Ojibwe heritage students and non-heritage students to take the Ojibwe language at the university level. And I just want to make it clear that our goal is not exposure. Even though students, non-Ojibwes and Ojibwes can take 2 years of Ojibwe and satisfy their language requirement, right? Their language exposure requirement. Our heritage students are the ones that usually go on to 3rd and 4th year. And I want to make it clear that our goal is speaking, is fluency, right? We want our students to graduate after 4 years as being highly proficient and being able to carry conversations and tell stories as much as possible. And we keep revamping our program to figure out how we can make them more fluent quicker. Okay? Because I believe that the ultimate test of your program, whether it's a good program or not, is whether or not you're producing fluent speakers. When I say fluent, it's a loaded word, but you know what I mean. Highly proficient, conversational, can speak it, know all the issues or most of the issues around the language, about how it works, those kinds of things. If you have this really big, nice program, but the students in your program are not highly proficient or they can't speak hardly at all after 4 years, time to revamp your program. We were there at one point too. Okay, I wanted to show you a video about our language students. This is a video that we made. It's only like 9 minutes. And it's our students talking the language. It's all in Ojibwe with English subtitles.
You wanted to men get away with it now. Ojibwe moment.
Kawange abini bua nishnabe Ojibwe mo siwak.
Chipitain dakwad o Owen Waywin. Begish no wajabatak miziwe. Gekino ma diwe gamikong in Dayang miziwe.
Agawa go goshkuzi magad Ojibwe mon. Mi wenji gugwe kendaman Ojibwe mon yin. Je goshkuzi magad Ojibwe mon.
Ich bin when it too young, it didn't weigh when it on. I went in go jig gashki tu see menje shine je go came among you. Dibish go. Ich bin we came among you Japanese mon. Japan get die ja. Ich bin when it too young. Ojibwe mon going gashki tu see menje shine with the Agama king. O mag document on. Miga onje o shit too young. Bachelors of Ojibwe language. O ma University of Minnesota, e cannot ma di we me gong. Je we do ko en dwang you e cannot ma ganak. Way when you tell Ojibwe mod. Going it to go ill, get kind of mod. Way when it Ojibwe mod, Jenita Ojibwe mod, okay, show Ojibwe mod, Chayahak. Me okay, I gave him in Chimin the mango, and then way when it on.
Ingimi wenda kikino maguya. Iwede U of M kikino madi wikamego.
Ingi kitchen wendan bejayan o ogekno mading University of Minnesota. Jenanda gekindam on Ojibwe moin.
Ingi Gitchiminawana goes. Megwa get Kanuama gozian oma University of Minnesota. Nibua Nishinabe gay. Ingi Nagishkwa.
Apne into Ojibwe moment. Gege tunishin.
Onsam zanagat je gikno amade zoyan o jubaimon. Barma go gi na quish goak o jubaimo gikno amage winani. A budget tune grammar patterns gi gikno amawad o jubaimon.
In da budget 2 min Asian Dagan grammar patterns. Dibish Google we kidoyan if magashagaya because me and new grammar patterns. Ga mamano name demand. Each ban budget 2 word grammar patterns ngi we kuno mag na we o jubaimon. No watch ki nita o jubaimon. Mino agaye no watch ki wena panatani we o jubaimon.
Waishkad gi getche zanagad jabach tuyan or jiboy moen. Gawin ingi jitigesi. Gawin ingi abach tu sin or jiboy moen. Ingi zegas. Gawin in danawi wanagi shwesi. Midashama ki mamino named the man. Butch in deng. Je onje gagi gidoyan or jiboy moen.
When she gasa magwana kuno maganag jabach 2 word o date wa o jubaimon. Ingi mamano name the mag ish ben habach 2 sigwa o date wa o jubaimon. Gawin way wayne gi nita o jubaimo siwag.
A budget tune gede. Nimino manji oma. Ki o jubaimoyan.
Gego oshabi again gegu. Gego minjamain the gang gegu. Metgo gede gedabach tun. No watch when punad.
Apaching gimen wendan ojiboy moen gikin o mading. And gimen wendan gosha nigiwe wijigan. And gimen wendan gagwe chichigayan.
Gawin 8 to go should be a gay sim. Nimisa wayne the mag janagat 2 word. Abach 2 word o dune one we o jubaimon. Mio is a chigayangama. Ekano ma diwe me going University of Minnesota.
Gi pibung hingi atsu kamen nijige kano magana gayanin. Hingi getche a pitana mag nijige kano maganak. Hingi getche binge yendam gashkatuyan je adzu kayan mekwa jibwe moyan. Devishkugo gaz a chige wad anishinabeg meoja. Gi pe eja sawamba no ma. Gawin and dagi gashkitusin jadzu kayan o jibwe moyan.
Gaigi gida is okay. When a buju the bajmuin. Gaigi gidag kendan. A moon chickadonan. Devishko passadie.
Get you a P10 dog went and named him. Job which is too young, you get in way when and on. Gami ni goose young in the schnabe young. Me wayne che ekano magayan here, which you boy win.
We abijin nandage kingdom man ojiboy moen. And gigi kino mage bangi. Gishi tayan oma o gekino ma diwigmik. No we gekino mage. No watch. Bigish ojiboy mo tawagwa. Nini jana sak and tabenuji sak and dagichimin waindan.
When je gagwe gakendaman o jibwe moen. Je gashkituyan je o jibwe mo tuagwa nini jana sag.
Nija wagandana sag. Nimisuwe ni mag jinata o jubaimon. Indu o jubaim. Oma indaya minawa ewede bedo to learning center.
Ingi nanda ke kenda na ojiboy moen ema yuamen wa kekino mari o kamgong. Nindu jiboy metago kekino mage ya no ma peto te kekino madi o kamgong. Ingi chimin wenda ma ki nanda ke kenda man ojiboy moen ema yuamen kekino madi o kamgong. Mion zam kashkitoyan chekikino amawagwa na yeshin gosasak. Nindu jupo emoto wagen gosasak Jigakain des awad and the Shinabe wad.
Nagakain des Anishinaabe Wiyan.
Gishpin gikno ma dezoyeg ojibwe mon. Miwa pigi zongi gabu young.
Nimi gwitchaway and Gigagwe Ojibwe Moyan. Gidagwe Gikandan. Gagit Gidam Minose. Gidam Minuanagos. Nin Ningi Minuanagos.
Kishpin we Ojibwe Moyan.
So at the University of Minnesota, the way our program works is that the Ojibwe language classes are primarily taught in Ojibwe with some English usage to explain difficult grammatical concepts. Ojibwe language is a highly inflected, it's very complex, and so it does require some explanation in English so that students can quickly get an idea of how the language works, so that when they start producing the language, because we're not just trying to give them an exposure, right? We're trying to get them to a point where they can produce language that is, and not just produce any language, right? Just because a bunch of Ojibwe comes out of their mouth doesn't mean it's good, right? So in the classroom, we don't let them speak English. So one of the things that we do is I have this underwear ball. It's underwear for my drawer. Who knows? But if they want to speak English, they raise their hand up and they want to speak English and ask a question, I throw this ball. And if they're holding the ball, they can speak English, right? But, and you can tell I don't wash it either. So it gets grosser and grosser every year. A couple weeks ago, I threw it to a student. She wouldn't even catch it. We also do weekly immersion lunches with our students. And me and the other instructor will, once a week, we meet with the students so they can get an opportunity to use the language and try to use the language and practice what they've been learning in class. Sometimes, though, at the beginning, their students are very shy and they're really afraid of making mistakes. So I tell them, that's okay. Just come and listen. When you're ready, start talking always comes last, right? That always comes last. So I tell them, don't worry about it. Just come and listen. So it's an opportunity for students to hear the language in use. Students can learn new vocabulary because when you're having lunch, you don't know what we'll talk about. It could be about anything. And it reinforces their overall language learning. There's no underwear ball in use. But the rule is no English. And there's no particular block, and there's no planned activities either. Sometimes students are trained. We train students to think we always have to plan an activity for them. They can't learn the language unless we give them an activity, right? I always tell my students, the language serves the needs of its speakers. You have to have a need to speak it. If you just walk around with a blank head and you don't have a reason to use the language, you're never going to learn it, right? So language serves the needs of its speakers. So you have to come with your brain, and whatever you want to talk about it. If you don't know the word, ask. We have another program that we have not been able to implement yet. It's the Ojibwe Immersion House. And this is a program where students can live together in an apartment and where there is a no English rule in effect. So the Immersion House allows students to live together and preferably with a native speaker living with them. But for a lot of our communities, we can't do that. We're not going to be able to provide a native speaker to live with them. But it's an opportunity for them to get together, live, because classes are not enough. 4 years of instruction is not enough for our students. They have to, because the classroom is very sterile, right? It's very sterile. Because there's so many things that you have to do in the language, like go shopping, do laundry, those kinds of things. There's so much of life that you can't experience, or it's very difficult to experience in the classroom. So that's why the program is created. We just haven't had enough students willing to live with each other and do it. Because immersion education or immersion living is actually quite scary for a lot of students. So we do have one area where you can speak English in the house, and that's the bathroom. So one person has to sit on the toilet, the other one has to sit on the edge of the tub. Then you can speak English, right? Because sometimes when you're doing immersion, they get frustrated, they get angry, so sometimes they just need to talk it out and air out their frustrations. Okay. Now, this idea came from the foreign language houses that they've done at certain universities. And it doesn't seem to be a widespread thing over a lot of universities and colleges, but some colleges or universities like Brigham Young University have what's called foreign language housing. And when the students from those foreign language housing, they're learning languages like Japanese, Russian, whatever. It's a foreign language. And they live together and they provide a native speaker and they live with a native speaker of the target language. And the students have reported, who have lived in the foreign language housing, reported that they actually felt like they were able to learn the language better than being in the country. A lot of them had spent time in a country of the target language that they're trying to learn, but they felt living in a group and having a native speaker there all the time really helped their language learning drastically. But we don't have that luxury. All our native speakers are 60 and 70 years older, so I don't know if they want to live with a bunch of college students. So the idea is that in the BYU Foreign Housing, they eat their meals together, and the meals are eaten together so that they could have conversations. We plan to have instructors and native speakers to do rotation meals with the students, if that's possible. We also have to have the literature shows that you need to have a native speaker or advanced language speakers mixed with the beginning students. If you only have beginning students in the immersion house, it doesn't work very well. Their learning is stifled, so you really do have to have a mix, and that's why we haven't been able to do it in the last few years, is because we don't have enough advanced students to beginning student ratio to do that yet. And plus, in our language classes, there's only maybe 4 or 5 students taking our classes, so it's very difficult to do sometimes. Another program that we partner with is this adult immersion program. This is for adults only, and this is an adult immersion academy, we call it. And at this academy, it's located on the reservation about 2 hours north of the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, and there is a no English rule in effect. So when we're at this academy, you can't speak English at all. You can't even say "anin ekidong car." You can't ask that. Even words that you don't know how to say, you can't say the English word, right? You have to say "anine kidong," right? You have to act it out, draw it, or whatever you got to do, but you can't say the English word. And so, but it's not just immersion. We combine it with grammatical description. In other words, that's why I'm there. My job is to do grammar. It's an ugly word for a lot of people, but really my job, I'm a linguist. And so I'm Ojibwe, this is my language, and I'm a linguist, an academic linguist, right? So I demystify the language for the students. That's my job. I don't go in there and say, this is a transitive verb, and this is, no way, I don't do that. I leave that stuff at the door. All those technical words and jargon, I leave at the door. I come in and I make up new words to describe how the language is working. So we found that if the students know how the language works, in other words, if they understand the fundamentals, how the language works, how words are put together, especially the long words, how that works, then we have found that they benefit from immersion, or they're able to benefit from the immersion environment more. So that's why in this academy, we don't allow students who have zero knowledge. They have to have some knowledge. either classes or personal study, but they have to have a working knowledge of the language before they can come do this. Because if you throw an adult, right, who has no knowledge of the language and you throw them in an immersion environment, one or two things will happen. They'll start crying or they'll punch you in the face, or both, right? If you just start speaking, I did that in Japan. I lived in Japan for 2 years. The guy I was working with, he was American too. He decided to speak nothing but Japanese to me for the whole day. Yeah, punched him. Made me very angry because he didn't tell me that he was going to do that. Okay, miigwech, that's it. Any questions we can do later, right? Okay, thank you.
For reminding us that to make language programs fun, as the testimonials of his students at the University of Minnesota showed us that language learning should and also will always be fun for the speakers who use their heart for all its metaphysical and biological functions. Let me try this. Dr. Fairbanks, Anishina Bemowin, Awani Gabaw. So maraming salamat po, Dr. Fairbanks. And now it's time for Dr. Kimura to give his reaction to our panel before we proceed to our Q&A, our Malayang Talakayan. May I call on Dr. Kimura for his short reaction to our panel?
Thank you very much. And because I have to wing it and we're all hungry, we're going to keep it short, right? Okay, good. So I got to go find my notes now. And I can't pronounce all your names correctly, but I'll try my darndest to get on with the reaction. This is brand new to me, so I can react, but to do it like this. So Ecuador is where we heard our first presenter, and the importance of documentation there. I guess the essence of one of the points, of course, is mapping these endangered languages so they can begin to document accurate information about not only the location and the number of speakers, but begin to, in this locating them, have engage the communities in preparing members of that community to participate in actively documenting their own languages. So in training these community members to participate in that as well. Similar, I guess, to what's happening in Thailand especially. So documentation, I guess, is, as we heard, is an active initiative. So it has a purpose, it has training, it has a process, and we need to maintain and use the results for valuable, purposeful use to keep our languages going. And as I'm saying this, I'm looking at both Ecuador and Thailand because it's similar. And you're talking about mapping as well in Thailand. And very interesting, of course, in Thailand and elsewhere, I believe, is that with, I guess you call this apps or available on our websites, on our internet, that we can actually utilize them to create our own lexicon, lists of words or dictionaries. As I heard, it's not that hard. We can do it. And it's been demonstrated, it's been done, so here we go. Let's make our own dictionaries and get it right online so it's being instantaneously used. We don't have to wait for the publishers and the editing. And of course, we want it to be as accurate as possible, but we can get to use it much faster in these days. And so, where am I now? Oh, is it already in Ojibwe land? I should have eaten my sandwich at snack time, but I did. I had a cup of coffee instead. So anyway, at the University, of course, at Minnesota, it sounded like a pretty familiar landscape to me because that's what I'm involved with directly on a daily basis, although we connect, as he is indicating, to the home. So the use, I guess, more of documentation in the sense that he had learned his language on his own from the elders, going to them. He got a free education, he said. So that's fabulous. And then utilizing that with this passion. And as that video showed, his students are saying, we're using our language with our hearts and with our passion. So we are not going to try not to worry about mistakes, because when you get a little older, it's always harder to move beyond when you were just a little kid, and who cares how you say it? You just say it, and they'll hear you and they'll understand you. But as you get older, of course, it gets a little harder. So I guess for university age group, it's a little hurdle. But regaining and seeing what can happen and being inspired, and we saw how it's being returned into the home by these young university-age students who are then becoming parents and using it at home, and also more vitally, they're becoming the teachers for the environments that they'll be engaging their language in keeping revitalization, moving it forward. So I'm so sorry I can't cover all the points, and I was scribbling a lot of notes, but because we're going to keep it short, and are we actually going to have the panel now? Okay, well, I'm giving you guys some time. And the guys who asked the questions, keep your questions short, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Larry Kimura. And now may I invite our speakers, Dr. Marlene Habut, Dr. Mayuri Thawarnpat, and Awanagi Aba, Dr. Brendan G. Fairbanks for our Q&A. We have time for 2 to 3 questions because we will be having our lunch by 12:30. And I'm reminding the participants to keep the questions short because we're running out of time, 12:30 for lunch. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. It's already lunchtime, so keep it short. For those, I'm Randy Nobleza from Center for Language and Culture under the National Language Commission. So for non-linguists and for those who are interested, we've talked about preservation of language in other parts of the world. If there's a toolkit for language revitalization, what should be included in the toolkit for non-linguists to apply in their own community?
So is there a toolkit toolkit for non-linguists to use in their communities for language revitalization? If there is a toolkit that non-linguists can use, a toolkit, tools,
What is it?
or is it just a yes or no answer?
They're big toolkits, like big principles, not